episode 42 of the Unscripted Company podcast. And for those of you that hang out with us each week, if Raya and I both look exactly the same as the last episode, that's because we literally finished recording that one 10 minutes ago. And the reason we're pre-recording this one is because as of you watching this, assuming you're watching it on the day that it's released, actually, no, I would be back by now. I'm in Las Vegas. That's why we're pre-recording this. I'll be on my honeymoon, hanging out with my beautiful wife in the city of sin, ? I don't know if I didn't really think that one through before I said that out loud. Hanging out with my wife on a honeymoon in the city of sin. But that would be a fun one. Now, so Riley, normally this is where I'd ask you, how's your week been? But we kind of just had that conversation in the last episode, kind of as a reason to call back to that. So if you're watching this and you didn't watch last week's episode, well, first of all, you missed a great conversation because we talked about Donald Trump winning the election, becoming the 47th president of the United States. Technically, he still has to get inaugurated, but formalities, he'll get there. January's around the corner. But with this one, we've kind of touched on this, I think, multiple times maybe in other episodes. I know when we talked about Texas, is it going to go independence? And then anytime the growth of Texas, I guess, brought up, I usually bring this up. But one thing I think I want us to dive into today is, should Texas create its own version of Las Vegas? And what I mean by that is Texas has a lot of land. For those of you that don't know, the vast majority of everyone in Texas lives within what's called the Texas Triangle. It's Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and then the greater Houston metro area kind of makes up a triangle there. But once you go west of that, once you go west of I-35, there's a lot of open land out there. So why not build our own Las Vegas? Why should we rely on states like Nevada to house Las Vegas for us? Now, at face value, Riley, I'll dive into some of the details trying to make this argument, but do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it's a ludicrous idea? Is it too pie in the sky theory?
I mean, if I'm being honest, Texas already has everything. And I don't say that
That's a good point. Texas has everything.
We have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 out of the top 5 corporations in America in the state of Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have like some crazy stat where we always trade back and forth with California on this, but we have more Fortune 500 headquarters than like any other state.
And so as a whole, I mean, Texas has everything. It has everything that you could ever need. Like realistically, we could self-sustain if we wanted to, because we have our own power grid that probably could use some updating, especially for winter storms.
I just see they're actually getting ready to connect that to the main one.
I didn't see that.
So it'll work in our favor, but it'll be our grid. But in case of emergency, pull plug,
Right. But when you look, again, kind of like reiterate what you said, I mean, majority, which I think it's like 80% of our state's population lives in that Texas Triangle. We don't have anything else in those other areas. Now, when you take away all the farmland and stuff like that, we still have so much land left. Like we have so much land in Texas that can be used for farming and crops and things like that, that we would still have so much land left over to do other things with, including a miniature version of Las Vegas. And it doesn't have to be like the largest thing ever, but I mean, if you look at, was it Highway 30? If you were to make something along Highway 30, like outside of like Abilene or something, like that'd be like the perfect area to do it, because it's along a major highway that goes through Texas. And it's just, you could treat it just like the Vegas Strip. So you could do like an intersecting road that'd be almost like the Vegas Strip, and then just have the Vegas go along that. So it's like you're driving through it on the highway, but you could exit off and go to the areas that you need to go to. I think it would be a good commodity to have, especially since there's already gambling in sports. Even though Texas doesn't technically have that, there's still gambling in sports that you could do online, and it is what it is. So
no, it's a good precursor. So one thing, I was pivoting here in real time because I was like, ooh, I have like 3 routes I can go with this, and I have 3 different pieces of evidence, and we'll probably hit on all 3. But kind of going back to what you mentioned, how Texas doesn't really have gambling right now. If you're in Texas and you want to go gamble somewhere, without flying, you want a quick drive, most of the time you're headed to Oklahoma or you're headed to Louisiana.
Yeah.
That's where most of our money's going. I actually got curious. I started poking around and I was trying to figure out like how much of that money from Texas is like leaving to go be gambled in those other states. And there's a lot of different numbers out there. There's not like a factual like this is the number that like we're reporting on. But I did find one number that was showing that Texans were estimated to gamble around 2.5 billion with a B annually in out-of-state casinos. When in terms of the casinos that are directly bordering the state of Texas, not counting Las Vegas, 1.2 billion of that going to Oklahoma and 1.1 billion of that going to Louisiana. Now that's according to PolitiFact. So just being able to keep some of that money in the state. Now, who knows how that money's going to get, sucked back into the state through taxes, gambling, symbols, roads, stuff like that. But it would be a big boost, I would say, just to keep that at home. And so we have to first start asking ourselves, okay, if we can't do that today in Texas, is there a chance of that happening at any point in our lifetime? And I think the answer to that is yes, but we have to be patient. Now, the reason I say that, let me throw this up on the screen real quick. This is an article from the Texas Tribune. This is from back in 2020. Headline is GOP mega donor Sheldon Adelson readies 2021 lobbying blitz to bring casinos to Texas. Now, we can, of course, read the screen and understand who Sheldon Adelson is. Spoiler alert, who he was. I'll explain that here in a little bit. But Adelson owned the Las Vegas Sands. I don't know if that name sounds familiar to you at all. It's a huge resort casino brand out of Vegas. And so basically the former owner of the Las Vegas Sands in 2020, in preparation for the 2021 legislative session, started pumping money into the state of Texas to try to lobby in favor of bringing casinos to Texas. The first little part here says, the casino empire helmed by GOP mega donor Sheldon Adelson is zeroing in on Texas. Las Vegas Sands, among the world's largest gaming companies, has set its sights on legalizing casinos in the state with a stable of high-powered lobbyists for the upcoming legislative session. And on Tuesday, back in 2020, a public acknowledgement of its ambitions. Andy Aboud, Las Vegas Sands' top lobbyist, said the company was pursuing Texas as one of only a few expansion opportunities, along with places like Japan, Brazil, and New York. Quote, we view Texas as a worldwide destination and one of the top potential markets in the entire world. Texas is considered the biggest plum still waiting to be out there in the history of hospitality and gaming. So we know that back in 2020, there was a big push by the Las Vegas Sands to get Texas into gaming and casinos. Now, unfortunately, the next chapter in our story is that the effort to allow casinos did fall short in the Texas House. So during that legislative session, there were debates about should we legalize casino gambling and gaming in the state of Texas. Now, there was a big push. The article says, also from the Texas Tribune, that the high-profile push to bring casinos to Texas this legislative session ended Friday in 2021 after supporters acknowledged that they did not have enough votes to advance it out of the state house. So they couldn't get enough guaranteed votes to warrant it going to the floor to say yay or nay for it. Authors of the legislation postponed consideration until dates after the session ends, dooming the initiative ahead of a midnight deadline for the House approval. Basically saying that they didn't have enough votes, we'll kick the can to another later date. Now, what's interesting is if you read these headlines, you're like, oh, well, that sucks. I guess the deal's dead. Didn't really go anywhere, at least in terms of state law in the legislature. Well, I don't know if people remember this hitting the headlines. Those of you that follow the NBA or news out there, Riley, you're located in the Dallas Fort Worth. Do you remember? I think we might have talked about this. Maybe we haven't. I'll see if I can surprise you on this one. Hopefully, I can. Do you remember that Mark Cuban sold part of the Dallas Mavericks?
Yep, he sold his main ownership stake, so now he only owns, I think it's like 49% or something like that.
Do you know who he sold them to?
Adelson.
Dun, 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 dun. Headline: NBA approves sale of Dallas Mavericks to families that run the Las Vegas Sands Casino Company. So, in between the time of our first story in 2020 and December of 2023, fortunately, Senior Adelson has now passed, so he's no longer with us, but his wife is at the helm. So, this is from Market Watch from Dallas, Texas. The NBA on Wednesday, back in 2023 of December, approved the sale of a controlling interest in the Dallas Mavericks from Mark Cuban to the families that run the Las Vegas Sands Casino Company. The deal was approved just shy of a month since the families of Miriam Adelson and Savan and Patrick Dumont announced their intention to buy the basketball team. The purchase values the Mavericks in the range of $3.5 billion. Now, Patrick Dumont, Adelson's son-in-law and president and chief operating officer of Las Vegas Sands Corporation, will serve as Mavericks governor. Adelson is the widow of casino magnate Sheldon Adelson. Cuban, of course, is expected to maintain control of basketball operations, and there's no indication the franchise will leave Dallas. So, interesting development here to where you had the Adelsons come in, and I don't know if I really got this point across in the first article, but Adelson was a mega donor in the GOP. So, like, he would back a dump truck of money up to any political cause or movement that he was behind. In this case, bringing casinos and gambling to Texas. The state legislature said, you know what? Not now, maybe later. We're going to postpone the vote because we don't have firm buy-in to bring the vote to the floor. So the next move is the Adelson family buys majority ownership in the Dallas Mavericks. This is interesting because DFW is a huge market. First of all, it's like, I think it's technically like the third largest media market. We know it's got a ton of people. It's not slowing down anytime soon. We know Wall Street is basically moving to Dallas. We know the Texas Stock Exchange that's trying to get kicked up is going to be in Dallas. Now there's a chance that the Las Vegas, one of the biggest families there, is kind of got their eyes set on Dallas. Now, this is not to say that they're going to bring casino gambling to the city of Dallas, but it just goes to show that the influence is starting to kind of create a foundation for themselves here in the Lone Star State.
That's a lot to kind of unpack there. So I think when you kind of look at it as a whole, Dallas being that media center, that's one of the top media centers in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be bad to have like your small areas where you have like your little gambling and your back rooms and things like that, like kind of like your small bars and you go to the back room and you can kind of gamble a bit and this. But I think if you're going to push an agenda to have gambling in Texas, if you're going to do it and you already have that much capital in our state, I know it takes a lot of money. And I'm actually going to get to this whenever I read, because I'm going to go into this article here in a second. But you need to have a lot more backing than just one family. And I think that if you're going to do it, you need to do it on a full scale. Like, it'll be like 15 years in development, 20 years in development. But, you could probably start off small and then start building up around it and everything. But once it gets going, like it'll start generating the income for itself. Which kind of brings me to this article. Because now that they know Mark Cuban has sold his ownership stake, I'm not saying this will happen, but let's talk about the Cowboys for a second. Let's talk about Jerry Jones for a second.
Interesting.
Let's talk about the fact that Jerry Jones just doesn't care about the actually winning anymore, and he just cares about spending money. Who's to say that he doesn't invest a stake in that to make more money than what he's already making but possibly ends up selling not a full ownership stake, but he ends up selling a portion of the Cowboys to this family or another billionaire family, unless someone was to really offer him a good amount. But I mean, the Cowboys are the most expensive franchise in the world in
Yeah.
any sports.
I don't think a lot of people realize that outside of like people that are diehard football fans. Like the Cowboy, like for those of you listening or watching, if you don't realize this, the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise on the planet. More money than even the biggest European soccer clubs are worth. Like Manchester United, Man City, like all of those, Liverpool, like the Cowboys, despite them not winning a Super Bowl in the majority of our lifetime, they're still worth so much more money. Just the brand, that star alone is worth so much money. It's insane.
So there's two different numbers, but let's just go ahead and just call it this. They're worth $11 billion. They are the only franchise, the first professional sports team to be with the value of over $10 billion.
And here's the thing too, is that's what they're worth today. If you go to sell them, you sell them for a multiple of what they're worth.
Yeah.
So it could be sold for a 3 times multiple, a 10 times multiple.
Yep.
If there's a lot of opportunity there, which there's always opportunity, it's just floundered every year to where it's like you could sell them for like a 20 times multiple.
Think about this for a second. In 2020, the Cowboys were only worth $5.5 billion. 2021, 5.7. 2022, $8 billion. 2023, $9 billion, and 2024, $11 billion. They had an over 50% increase in valuation in just 5 years.
They increased their value. So if you took like billions is like a 1 unit. So like, you go up by 1 billion, that's 1 unit.
Right.
They went up by more units in valuation and billions than they did in wins on the football field.
Facts. And so with that being said, I'm going into this article.
Yeah.
And this was as of 8 months ago this year. And both these articles that I have, but this is the main one I'm going to read. It's on Crane Currency. Billionaires want to bring Vegas to deeply resistant Texas. And it says Tillman Fertitta has long wanted to bring grand resort style casinos to Texas, but despite years of effort, including hiring lobbyists and donating to politicians, the Houston billionaire and other like-minded business titans have run into more powerful forces in the state, morality and politics. Here, let me actually just do this real quick.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Tillman Fertitta, I don't know if he still does. At one point, he owned the Houston Rockets. Mm-hmm. He also owns Bubba Gump Shrimp. I think he has an ownership in Margaritaville. Some other stuff as well.
It might show it here, but it says now Fertitta, who owns the Golden Nugget Casino and has an estimated net worth of $11 billion, is seeing signs of progress. One reason, he's got more company from casino backers who also want to overturn a gambling ban that's existed for 120 years. The heirs of Las Vegas Sands Corp empire, led by Miriam Adelson, are ramping up political donations and recruiting their own lobbyists, deepening their foray into the state. Adelson's family bought control of the Dallas Mavericks basketball team last year from Mark Cuban, who's also been touting casino-based resorts as tourist destinations that will draw more dollars to Texas. Texans, meanwhile, are increasingly flocking to casinos in neighboring states. Fertitta has a resort in Lake Charles, Louisiana, while the Choctaw Nation owns more than half a dozen casinos and resorts in Oklahoma. The Choctaw casinos, located less than 2 hours from downtown Dallas or Fort Worth, advertise heavily on highway billboards and the city's shared airport, not just for the opportunity to wager, but also for concerts featuring acts such as Aerosmith and Reba McEntire. Perhaps, said Fertitta, whose holdings also include Landry Seafood and Houston Rockets of the National Basketball Association, the time has come for Texas to join dozens of other states in allowing Las Vegas-style casino resorts. Quote, let's do something to bring tourism and the business traveler, the conventions to Texas. And these need to be billion-dollar properties that do that, he said in an interview. We need to do it right and build the casinos and not have a bunch of slot machines in every single little grocery store. You don't even really see that anymore. And if you used to go to some convenience stores, you'd see like the little slot machines they had, like, in the back. You don't even really see that anymore.
Yeah, I think they're trying to prevent looking like Vegas in the sense that once you get to that airport in Vegas, there's slot machines all over the place in that thing. There's
Yeah,
like slot machines in every gas station. It's like
right.
as long as you got a gambling license, it looks kind of cheesy.
And then just to kind of like fast forward onto this, and then we'll kind of continue. It says, for some, it is a strong moral issue, said Bob Kohler, a lobbyist for the Christian Life Commission, the public policy arm of the Baptist General Convention of Texas. It is also about protection of the poor and an economic issue. There are a large number of Texans who are not, quote, anti-gambling, but don't want it next door and in our state. Here's the thing. There was like one of two, like if you had to really pick like one of two choices for a way for money to be poured back into our state's economy, off the top of my head right now that I can think of, you have two. One would be bringing gambling to Texas and, having it, you can have it regulated. I mean, Texas would probably be really good at trying, making it regulated, not like Vegas. And cannabis legalization. They're not going to do cannabis legalization. Texas is, medicinally, yes, still, but they're still far from recreational usage. Some counties have decriminalized it, under certain amounts, but they're still far off from just like, hey, you can go do this. Again, I kind of stand on the point that if you're going to do it, I don't think the Texas Triangle needs anything else. I think you need to utilize that part of Texas that is just not being used at all. And I'll kind of just like, for those of you who don't live in Texas, and for those of you who, I'll just kind of just pull this up real quick.
You pulling up a map?
I am pulling up a map.
There you go.
So 90 or 80% of Texas residents live from here, and here, which, as what JK said, is known as the Texas Triangle. You have all this land over here, and yeah, you have like your, smaller towns and cities and stuff that you will find along here, and there's definitely a lot. You have your farms up here, like you have a lot of cattle farms and stuff like that. Like you still have a whole bunch of untapped land that could be used, especially out here. Once you get past Abilene, there's nothing out there. Like they're drilling for oil, but that's only if you go all the way out to like Odessa, Monahans, like all these different areas out here. But if you find the right place, like you have I-30 that eventually turns into I-20 and all that, if you find the right place, you could definitely put a casino base, like a Vegas based resort out there. That would definitely be something for other people to come from other states to come to visit and having things to do. And then not only that, but the travel time for, I'll be honest with you, if they had a smaller Vegas here in Texas, I would go stay in a hotel. May not gamble a lot, but it'd be cool just to go experience it.
I got a solid theory where we could probably put that place.
Where's that?
So a lot of people don't realize this. We got some more interstate highways in the works to be constructed on the western half of our state.
Really?
Yeah. If you want, real quick, I can throw up a little diagram.
Yeah, go for it. I'm interested in that. Actually, I didn't even know about that.
Cool. You might have to stop sharing your screen real quick.
Got you.
All right. So the first one we have, let's see if y'all can find the correlation here. So you have Interstate I-27. I'm going to zoom into this so you can actually see it here. I-27, they're calling it ports to plains because it's going to take you basically all the way up to the plains of Texas and the western half of the U.S., all the way to the southern port. But you can see it's going to go basically from Amarillo. It's going to go north of Amarillo, but down through Lubbock. That stretch kind of already exists today through Lubbock. And it's going to go down. It's going to split. It's going to split with Midland, Odessa, and then it's going to go through Big Spring. It's going to go through San Angelo, then Sonora, then Del Rio, Eagle Pass, all the way down to Laredo. So it gives us a little bit of a north to south corridor here. I'm going to propose we put this thing out in San Angelo. Here's why. There's one other highway a lot of people don't realize that's about to stretch out that way. You have I-14. Now, I-14 currently exists in the Killeen Belton area. It goes out to Fort Hood, or what they call now Fort Cavazos. Basically, what's going to do, it's going to go all the way over to Louisiana. It's going to go through Jasper, Woodville, Livingston, Huntsville. It's going to hit Bryan College Station. It's going to hit Belton, Killeen, Temple area. It's going to go out to Brady. And this is going to split. On the north side, it's going to go up to San Angelo. It's going to hit Midland, Odessa. South side, it's going to basically go all the way out to kind of nowhere. And then it's going to loop back up to Odessa, Midland. It's going to give like an alternative to I-10 here. But there's also a little connection point here that's going to connect I-10 up to I-14. Now, the reason I think San Angelo might be an interesting spot is when I first of all, let me preface, when I say put this thing out in San Angelo, I'm not saying in that city. I'm saying in this neck of the woods out here. And the reason why is if we're thinking with a long enough time horizon here, this will give Texas and the transportation enough time to provide 4, if not 5 different interstate highways with access to this new area. So you could, if you're in Dallas Fort Worth, you could take potentially 2 different routes. You could take I-20 and then cut down on a highway to get to San Angelo down here. You could potentially go I-35 down to Temple Belton and then cut over west to San Angelo. If you're in Austin, you just go up to Temple Belton, cut over, or you take 290 out a little bit, then you cut up. If you're San Antonio, you take I-10 out west and then you cut up on I-14. If you're in Houston, you can take I-10 all the way out there, take the same route basically. Kind of no matter where you're at in Texas, you kind of will start to have an interstate highway access point there. Plus, if you're in New Mexico, you go east on the same highway.
True. There's one more thing too, and we talked about this actually in one of our I can't remember which episode it was. For those of you who don't know, this has been in the works for probably like 5-10 years now, I think. Still needing a lot of funding because it's going to cost billions of dollars to make, but the Texas high-speed rail.
There you go, buddy.
The Texas high-speed rail. And for those of you who don't know, I'll just let's see if I can find something on that real quick.
Yeah. There's currently funding that's being approved to start the high-speed rail process to try to procure land, basically, for rail between Dallas and Houston, with the idea of Dallas eventually connecting to Fort Worth via Arlington.
So let me see if I can pull this full photo up here. So this is the exact same photo I think that you showed last time that we talked about this.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that little yellow bar out there.
Yep. So this high-speed rail, and this is why we talk about like Texas doesn't like in this triangle. We don't need, like, yeah, you can have like small things in each individual cities, because let's be honest here, people travel to Houston. You can, for work, things like that. People travel to Houston, San Antonio, Austin, all kinds of stuff. But if you're looking for a vacation or you're looking to go hang out somewhere for a weekend, there's no airports that really go out to West Texas. I mean, you have small airports, if any. How are you going to get out there in less than 5 hours if you live in the DFW area?
I think part of this is you're going to build an airport out there too.
That would probably be the eventual plan.
I think you'd build an international airport out there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly. But look at the time travels that they're expected for this. If you're traveling from Fort Worth to San Antonio, which is 306 miles. So I live in Denton, Texas. When I went to San Antonio a couple years ago, and we went to like Canyon Lake or something like that, it was like a 5.5-hour drive from Denton to San Antonio. And it was probably like 350-ish, something like that. It's, almost 400, give or take. About 5.5 hours, 6 hours, okay? With a train from Fort Worth, and it's not going to go all the way up to Denton, but it's like from a train going from Fort Worth to San Antonio, you just cut that like less than half the time to get from one place to another.
And you don't have to drive, and there's no traffic.
They're going to put these railways along the highway, so it's like, again, we kind of talked about this in the previous episode, but it's like if you live right outside of Austin, like let's say like they got Cedar Park that's showing right here, they even got Temple. Like let's say you live in those areas and you want to take a job in a different city, there's your transportation right there. You don't have to worry about anything. But then, as what JK said, you have that little bit right here that's branching off that could be the eventual, because this project's going to take 20 years or more.
We might be dead by the time it's done.
We'll probably be dead by the time this is done. So unfortunately, we're probably not going to get to see the glory of what this is. But it'd be cool to at least see the beginning construction aspects of it. That'd be pretty cool. But if this was to continue on a trajectory, this could actually branch off in multiple different ways. Like you could actually have this like split, and then you could have one that goes up to like Abilene. You could have one that maybe even just goes up to like the Panhandle per se.
Yeah.
But the main aspect would be if you just had one straight line, have it go straight for San Angelo and the Texas Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That would be your best bet.
Here's the other alternative I was actually just kind of thinking through just now is I've always been focused on kind of going like halfway out to full West Texas out there. So this is why I kind of stopped at San Angelo. You can also have the other possibility. You put it in the middle of the Texas Triangle. Now, problem is I don't think culturally that neck of the woods would be okay with it because it would be like around probably Bryan College Station area. A lot of land out there still, but a lot of family landowners that have been there for generations. You can make the same argument out west, I'm sure, but
right.
Part of some of the pushback too I know about, bringing gambling and casinos to Texas is you don't want this ruining your cities. You don't want the bad influence. Right. You don't want the temptation of it being there. Mm-hmm. But what I think Texas should do, the approach to this is wherever we put this, let's just use San Angelo as like a placeholder. You make it a special district where that's the only place it can happen.
Yeah.
Like you got to go there in order to gamble, place a wager, place a bet, etc.
Right.
Now I'm kind of curious. This is kind of a separate conversation, but I'm curious long term to see what Texas does with like online gambling, like the DraftKings and the online sports books. That's a whole different conversation because you can do that from your phone, and it's, I don't know, in a weird way, I think it's easier to put sports gambling in a different like realm than betting on a slot machine or like a game of blackjack or something. I don't know. Right. It's a weird moral issue, I suppose. But if you just build a special district for it, and I fully believe if you build it, they will come. I think it's just like, it seems like a no-brainer from a tourism perspective, and it gives life out there. The biggest unknown to me long-term is where does the water come from for it? But you can make the same argument with Las Vegas. Las Vegas has to like truck in so much water because they don't have any. They're in a freaking desert. There's no water out there. They're having to truck and pipe in water from outside cities, states, etc. Texas could probably do that too. We're already doing that. Like San Antonio's running out of water. They're having to pipe that in from Central Texas. But
I'll say these are the only. When you look at San Angelo, which is right here, you have here, these right here.
Yeah, so I'll preface, like they look blue on a map. They dry up during the summertime.
Oh, no, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, because you got, was it Lake Camacho River? What is it? Yeah, it's Lake Camacho, right? There's the rivers, the Camacho River.
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, if you zoom into the middle of the city of San Angelo.
Oh, right here, yeah.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole. I almost, I daydreamed about moving to San Angelo at one point because the cost of living is pretty low and it's got a lot of housing inventory. It's a cool thing. They got like a whole Riverwalk thing built out, and it's interesting. And like statistically, they have more entrepreneurs per capita than anywhere else in Texas. Interesting little spot. And they got the Air Force Base. They got Goodfellow out there. I feel like there's a lot of possibilities.
Their best bet for that would be like, and this is definitely a lot, but you'd have to like open a canal just to have water coming in from the Gulf to
Dude,
push.
There's no way we're building that,
and there's no way you're doing that. Like either that or you pull like because I know up here, and we talked about this briefly, but up here they built, I think it was this lake.
Yeah, they'll dam up some little rivers or
Lake Bonham. They built a lake up here somewhere, but I think it might have been this one. But it's like the largest man-made lake or something like that, which I find it weird because I always thought Louisville was a man-made lake. And
they're man-made, but I think what that might be is it's a lake that doesn't have a tributary system. So there's not like a river or a creek that flows into it. It's just like they dug a hole or a hole was there.
Yeah, and here's water. but they would probably have to do something similar to this over here in San Angelo, where it's at. Yeah, build something like, depending on which side. I mean, based on those highways that you kind of mapped out. Like, let's say if it was like somewhere like in this little corridor right here between 87, 158 through 163 and 67, you put it right here, you would have to build like a man-made lake with a dam, like to have like that power, the water coming through, things like that. Like that's something that you would have to do.
Now, there is an alternative option
Yeah.
that I've thought through.
Yeah.
That's a little more logical, I think. Maybe we'll see, because I don't know how they would. I don't know how the city feels about it if this happened. Galveston Island. It's an island. It's the county seat. It's close to Houston, one of the largest cities in this country.
But where would you put it at, though?
There's some land on Galveston still. It would be what they call like East Beach. So when you look at the map, it's gonna be northeast. So once you get down to Jamaica Beach and all that, like yeah, it's Galveston. It's not really Galveston though. Kind of up. Sorry. So yeah, that's gonna be like the Boulevard Peninsula. So if you scroll down a little bit, you see where it says Pelican Island.
Yeah.
Okay, just south of that.
Oh, okay.
So like
okay.
kind of like there's land that can still be built. Like they're getting ready to put a Margaritaville there. So like. And Fertitta has land there. Fertitta stays on Galveston Island from time to time. Plus, I don't know if you know this, Galveston has like a bunch of cruise ships that take off from there. Like the vast majority of cruise ships actually leave from Galveston Harbor. So they get a lot of tourism there to begin with.
Yeah.
Galveston has a pirate history, pirate culture, debauchery, and degeneracy.
I mean, you do have like all this right here. I don't know if this is. I mean, this is probably just.
No, but you gotta put it on an island though. It's got to be on the island.
I mean, at least then you would actually have the separation, like no gambling beyond this point, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like you would actually have that.
Now, do you know what the biggest downside is though of doing this?
Hurricanes.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little tricky.
Yeah. But I don't know. I still like the idea of kind of what you said also too. I mean, putting it in the middle of the triangle. That way then when you have that high-speed rail, you can access it for any which way you wanted to, technically.
Yeah, I think somewhere between like Waco and Temple could be fun too, but I know culturally those towns would not want that in their backyard. It's not biblically correct. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Those towns are very... very firm in their beliefs, and I cannot fault them for that.
No, and that's, I think the smartest decision would be, like you said, San Angelo, somewhere in that area.
Yeah,
would probably be the smartest decision overall. But it's, again, if it happens, I don't believe, like you said, I don't believe we'll see it in our lifetime.
Yeah, I think if we see anything, it'll be online gambling. I think you could see maybe, I think honestly in our lifetime, you could see a casino pop up in Dallas or Houston. Yeah. It wouldn't be like a big like Vegas style thing. It wouldn't be like WinStar where it's like, we're the world's largest. But I think it could be a good size. Like they would build it into like a sports arena, or it would be like in a very strategic location, you know? Like if the Dallas Mavericks, when they get a new arena, because I know Cuban was pushing for one for a while, I think if that would ever happen, if gambling is legalized, I could see them building a little segment onto that. Same with the Cowboys. I could see new ownership coming in and saying, you know that museum that's in there? Scrap that. It's a casino now. Right. Something like that.
But, no, and I could see that too. I definitely could. You know, you would have, I mean, probably the American Airlines Center probably would be the best location overall to probably put it if they got a new stadium, if the Mavericks did, because like it may not, I mean, there probably is vacant land somewhere in Dallas, but majority
they tear something down to build something probably.
Yeah. But they've already got so much other construction going on that I don't think they would want to deal with that. I mean, I could see them doing something like you said, like kind of pulling like a Vegas and putting like slot machines in the airports. Things like that, you know, when people come here, like you're sitting at the airport for long periods of time, you want something you want to do, well, go gamble.
Yeah. And also as like technology improves, I think you'll see more like digital options to where like when we think of gambling at casinos, we still have that mindset of like 1980s. Like there's a lot of physical things that happen, card tables,
Mm-hmm.
slots, things you got to push and pull.
Right.
Whereas like as we go into this modern era, LCD screens, VR, stuff like that. Like I think there's modes and mediums of gambling that we're not even aware of yet. You know, like can you imagine making bets in a VR scenario, like where you put on a VR something and you're making a bet about something that's happening?
Right. So I didn't know this. So I was kind of browsing through that other article that I pulled up, and the headline for it was Las Vegas Sands target North Texas officials in renewed push for legalized gambling. This was as of August 10th of 2024.
Oh,
And it says, undaunted by legislative defeat more than a year ago, Las Vegas Sands, one of the world's biggest casino operators, is gearing up for another push to legalize casino gambling in Texas and is reaching out to local lenders across the state to build support in advance of the next legislative session in January. So we're probably going to be hearing more about this in a couple months.
yeah.
Sands lobbyists are making their case at a statewide series of roundtable forums arranged by the Texas Association of Business to build momentum for another run at gambling legislation in 2025. Nearly 50 municipal officials and business representatives from Fort Worth, Arlington, Dallas, and other North Texas cities participated in one of the sessions recently in Tarrant County. Sands leaders have expanded their North Texas footprint significantly over the past year with the purchase of the Dallas Mavericks and more than 100 acres in Irving near the former Texas Stadium site, large enough to build a destination casino resort.
Yo,
I
is Arlington about to have this like megapolis thing where you have
didn't,
like
dude.
two baseball fields, the football fields, Six Flags,
And the
all
casino.
and the casino? That's wild. That would be wild if they put that in the middle of Arlington.
It says their community outreach is just one element of in a multi-part strategy that also includes hefty political donations and intense lobbying by Sands and other gambling interests to overcome resistance to high-end casinos and legalized sports betting.
Man, I feel like that little fun fact that they bought land in Arlington completely erodes everything I said about anything else about location. That's interesting though, because that makes a lot of sense because you would have access to DFW International.
Yeah.
You'd have airport. You'd have tram because once
Like,
they
let
put in
me.
that high speed rail between Dallas and Fort Worth,
Where is? Okay, so here's Irving.
and then you get people from Houston. They can drive or take the train. Oh my gosh, this makes
I'm
so
trying to
much
find.
sense.
I'm trying to look for.
Plus, you'll be by the sports. Man, before you know it, the Dallas Mavericks are going to relocate out to Arlington too. You know what I
So hold
mean?
on. I'm trying to find. I might just be missing it. I'm trying to find the AT&T Stadium right now.
Yeah, and you know the minute the Mavericks relocate, you know the Stars are relocating too because they're not the Stars aren't going to stay at the American Airlines Center if the Mavericks aren't there anymore.
No, everything is going to be moving to Arlington and Irving. But I'm
I
trying to
wonder if
see.
FC Dallas feels a little left out of the way. They're like, hey, we're up here in Frisco just hanging out.
Dude, nobody cares about them. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big. It's
No, you're spot
soccer.
on. In
Yeah,
terms
nobody
of money
cares.
and TV viewership, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not even know about that until
I didn't even know there was even that much land over there still.
that's what I'm trying to find. Right, I'm trying to look for the stadium right now because I see Dallas Fort Worth International Airport.
Because that's gonna
Okay,
be great. Here, I got to pull it up. If you
yeah,
found the airport, that's gonna be grapevine. So here's AT&T Stadium. Here,
zoom
let me pull up
out.
satellites so we can see how many acres did you say?
They said 100.
This might be 100 acres right here.
Oh, I found it right now.
Wait, you know the specific lot?
No,
Oh, okay.
hold on. Scroll in, scroll in.
I think it might be this lot right here. If it's 100 acres, unless they bought the parking lot or they bought the buildings, like they could level these buildings pretty easily.
Yeah,
Because here's Globe Live. Did they rename this Choctaw Stadium? Oh, that is hilarious.
is that the old one?
Yeah, they renamed the old one Choctaw Stadium.
So now where's Six Flags at?
Six Flags. Where is Six Flags? I know it's close. Oh, here we go. Right here. It's going to be right at 30 and 360.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it. So yeah, it's got to be somewhere. And like when you take like that square piece, so like kind of like Yeah. So like there's like a little chunk of square where it connects like the highway. So like look at East Division Street and then Highway 30 and then 360 and then 157. So you got like
157.
yeah, so go back to satellite. Or not the satellite, not satellite, but the other one. So zoom out a little bit. Okay, so you see that little square right there where it's like East Abram Street, I think.
East Abram Street.
So like look, go down just a little bit.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, now go over to the left.
Up here?
Yeah, so like there's like that whole entire square where it's like it connects like the main roads and then it shows like all the way to 360 and I-30. Like there's like this whole square right there that's going to become like this. I don't even know what you want to call it, but it's got hotels. It's got, like you said, the AT&T Stadium, the baseball fields,
Yeah.
Six Flags, like that whole little chunk over in there. But that's probably the 100 acres that they're talking about is right there.
Yeah.
Unless they bought that and then that little chunk that's right up above too.
They might have. It's tricky because to not know exactly what they bought, because it could even be land that has warehouses and they plan on leveling the warehouses. Huh.
Let me see. Let me see if it says.
Arlington is just kind of getting everything.
Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. Las Vegas Sands. Las Vegas Sands land purchase Irving.
That's true. Maybe someone's dug through the public record and they know where that land's
They
at.
actually own it says as of 2023 from this article they own 259 acres in Irving.
Oh. Oh wait, sorry, you said in Irving.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And so it's like even if I'm looking at the state of Texas and I'm looking back over at Irving,
yeah.
Because let me see. Let me just double check the article just to make sure. Yeah, more than 100 acres in Irving near the former Texas Stadium site. So wherever the Texas Stadium was at.
Texas Stadium. Oh, yeah, it's an empty lot right now still. Oh, that's crazy. Here, I'll throw it up on the screen.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's... Yep.
Okay.
Ooh, that would that kind of makes sense. It's right tucked in this little neck of the woods.
So apparently the Miriam Adelson's family owns more land near Dallas than previously thought, adding to the intrigue surrounding the Adelsons' recent purchase of the Dallas Mavericks, an affiliate of casino resort developer Las Vegas Sands, whose owner is Miriam Adelson. In July of when did this article come out? It doesn't say. Acquired about 259 acres across 8 properties at State Highway 114 and Loop 12 near the former Texas Stadium site in Irving, the Dallas. So she probably owns all of that leveled ground over there.
That's crazy.
So like you have to think, what if you built a casino there and you built it on 2 separate lots and you connected it by a walk across bridge?
Oh, you for sure could do that. They do that in Vegas all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can walk like 10 miles and still be inside a building.
The properties include frontage along Elm Fork of the Trinity River, while most of the land is within Irving city limits. 22.5 acres fall in unincorporated Dallas County. Man, that is crazy.
Yeah. That's
so crazy.
Yeah, it'd be right next to Dallas Love Field. Still easy access to DFW International. Oh, man. That would put it on the map, more so than it already is.
Right.
Huh. That was a good find. That article you found, that was solid intel, sir.
So the question begs, though, I mean, I guess as we kind of wrap up this episode, the question begs, though, is it going to actually, do you think there's going to be any difference this time around as they make the push in 2025? Like, do you think we might start seeing small changes until they inevitably announce probably 5 years from now or so, hey, this is our plan to now build a Texas Las Vegas?
That's a good question. I think we will see small changes over the years. I don't know about this upcoming legislature. I think we'll eventually see like online gambling. I think we'll see that be a thing. Um, I don't know. I don't think we'll see like the Las Vegas of Texas in the next legislature. Maybe the one after that.
But it still
I,
probably won't even be in our lifetime, though, like the full scope of what their plans probably are. Because you have to think they
yeah,
probably thought about this already. They're not just
yeah,
thinking small scale. Like they want to grow an empire and a corporation, like they're which is already a global recognized thing. Let's be honest,
yeah,
not just in the U.S. So they're definitely going to be pushing for something big, whether or not it has to do with sports teams or if they're pushing for something bigger.
yeah. That's true, man. But just the fact that they own that many acres right there. If anything, they could always flip it because it's only going to go up in value just because of the location of it.
Oh yeah,
So I mean, if it fails, they could still easily make a good profit on there. Oh, but at the same time,
like even if they just built one casino just
yeah,
there, like the attraction to that
yeah,
would be insane for
yeah,
just the whole DFW area. Even probably other cities would start, you'd see a
yeah.
whole huge influx of people just coming here.
All
And
the people that used to drive up to Windstar, they would go there now potentially instead of like. And plus, it would bring another concert venue in, so just more
mm-hmm,
acts, more entertainment, stuff like that.
right,
Um, yeah, there's endless possibilities if they do something like that. Man,
indeed.
so that's all I got for episode 42 of the Unscripted Company podcast. As always, Riley. Actually, before I hand it off to you, I probably should remind the good people out there, give us a subscribe if you haven't done so yet. If you've enjoyed the conversation, if you made it this far into the podcast, first of all, thanks. I see you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing out there. Um, if you don't mind, leave us a comment down below. Where do you think they should put the first casino entertainment complex in Texas?
Do
Should it
you
be in
want
Irving?
one?
That's a good point. Do you even want one, first of all? If you do, where should it go? Do you think like Irving? Do you think out in West Texas, Galveston? Is there a place that maybe you're aware of that we didn't even bring up? Maybe there's a little hidden corner, neck of the woods out there that makes more sense than anything we said. And if you don't, why not? Out of curiosity, just let us know. Also, go check out unscriptedcompany.com. You can find the link to our weekly newsletter that's out there filled with all the fun goods that we talk about each week in these episodes. You can also find a link to go purchase some merch. I don't know if you see Riley and I each week, we wear these hoodies with our logo on it that says Unscripted Company. Got mugs, got other things out there as well. And if there's anything that, you think you'd want to purchase, you don't see it out there, let us know. We can maybe make some magic happen. But with that, Riley, I always let you leave these wonderful people with some wise words of wisdom to lead us out. What you got this week?
Um, yeah, I guess kind of to reiterate, if we did have a casino in Texas, um, how would you want it regulated? Like, what would be some of the things that you would hope that would benefit our state? Because ultimately, as a lot of states do have legalized gambling and have casinos, and they probably use a lot of that money to put back into the state itself. What would be some of your big things that you would want out of that? Again, do you even want a casino here? If you do, again, tell us why. If you don't, tell us why also. We definitely like the interaction with all that. And with that being said, I mean, it may happen. It very well may happen. And if it does, will it be the beneficial for our state or will it not be?